woman knows everything I do. I got a two-headed woman knows everything I do.
Okay, so my name's Jay. I'm Jay Wright. I'm from was born in a town called Nottingham in the Midlands of England, and I began drawing as a child, just like many other children, and I didn't seem to do so well at school because of things that happened with parents and my childhood and things. But I always drew and always was interested in the usual things like football and skateboarding and whatever else. But I did really badly at school, and when I left school, I started working with my dad as a carpenter. And after 3 years of doing that, I realised that I didn't want to be a carpenter for the rest of my life, and I still made work and was drawing and doing some paintings while I wasn't at work, working full time in a woodwork factory, so to speak. So I decided I'd go back to school, and I redid my, as we call it in England, GCSEs, because you have to do that to gain entry to college, because you have to go through college to get into university. So my girlfriend at the time said, "Oh, you have to if you want to do this, and if you want to become an artist and be educated at art school, you have to go through college to be into university." So I thought at the time, I don't need to do that. I don't need to go through university. I could just make work. But I realised that you could make a living from illustration. Most of the people that I liked were had gone through art school, and they were more of an informed artist, illustrator, graphic artist, whatever. So I went back to school, and I retook my GCSEs and got into college, and from college I got into university to study on the illustration course in Bristol in the southwest of England, which was great, and from the tutors there and from the students began to develop and learn more about the illustration industry and how I could make some money by being an artist, because I think for me and for a lot of people it's kind of a dream job, it's everybody as a child draws, I think, almost everybody, and the idea of making a living by drawing pictures, still now it's, you get paid, God knows how much for certain jobs, and it's like, sometimes I moan about me having to do certain things that I don't necessarily want to do, but a lot of my other friends are illustrators or artists, and they have to work in a supermarket or do a horrible job just to pay the bills. So it's so I'm glad that I went back to school and worked to get where I am. But I don't think you necessarily need to go to art school to become a successful illustrator or graphic designer. I think as a graphic designer you probably need some practical skills on how to use type and layout and a good sense of design. But I think an illustrator maybe not so much. But anyway. So the influence of comics. As a child, my parents were separated when I was 5, so I would go and stay at my dad's once every 2 weeks for the weekend, from Friday night until Sunday. And I've got 2 brothers, one younger and one older, and my dad was it was great. He was also he wanted to be an artist as well, but he had 3 sons in the 80s, so he had to drop out of art school and he's started doing carpentry. But he used to read the the 3 graphic novels of The Hobbit by Tolkien to us 3 brothers for bedtime story, and that's always stuck with me as not necessarily an influence for comics, but more of sort of, I don't know, a catalyst, an interest in narrative. And I think also I always think about doing comics without words, because I always used to think, when we were looking at the spreads and Dad's reading to us, I always used to think that the balloons of text has got in the way of the images. It was almost like, maybe because my dad was reading it to me and I wasn't having to read the comics, I was just looking at the images. It was like being narrated to me through my father, which, I don't know, maybe made it a bit more special, but yeah. Importance of style, importance of your own style. I think your own style is important as your visual language. I think it's what a lot of people recognise in your work straight away. But sometimes it can be more of a hindrance, because you want to break out of that style and do things differently, but it's sometimes scary to step out of. I think your style becomes a comfort zone, and when you want to break free from it and you get bored and things become quite often stagnant, and you want to push your work in a new direction, it's strangely scary to step out of this own style, this visual language that you've developed over the years. I think what's more important is the way you're thinking about things, is the way you're solving problems, or the way you're responding to content, or the way you think about things is probably more important than your own visual style. Of course, they come hand in hand, but.
Keep 2 eyes on me, 2 more eyes on you. I went to a fortune teller, to the 7th sister tomb. They say, go away, little boy, it ain't nothing we can do. You got a 2-headed woman.
British humour in my work. I don't think so. I think I'm not sure where my humour comes from. I think for most people who maybe make work that's slightly humorous, they probably don't think it's that funny. But I don't know. I like the 70s comedy show Monty Python, and I don't know really. Yeah, it's funny because there's some things that I do, most things I don't think are funny at all. A lot of them are just they're observations that I've seen other people do, and that I can relate to, I suppose, and then other people can relate to them. Because I think that's what the things that I find funny are things that I can relate to, and that's what a lot of people I think about comedy. It's funny if it's happened to me, or if it's happened to a friend, or I can directly relate to it. I think teaching is something that I'm probably not, that I don't think I'm ready for. I think I need to create more work and just spend a little bit more time thinking and experiencing things before I actually start teaching people. Because I think now I could probably tell somebody about how I produce work, how I see things, how to be more, I don't know, observant and more open. But teaching people, I think, objectively, you need to I think I've been working for a good number of years. I think another 5 years or something, because I only graduated from art school 2 years ago. So I think I definitely need to do a bit more work before I teach anything, for sure. Yeah. So the characters in my work, I think there's not necessarily one or a few that I draw all the time. I think it's more the shapes and the forms of the characters and the different ways that I try to use abstraction to draw things, to draw body parts or the way I draw an eye, but it's funny that they just constantly develop, I suppose, and what I've been trying to do recently is just make things even more graphic and even more abstracted from their sort of from an actual human form. But yeah, like I say, that just constantly changes and develops, and you get bored with drawing an eye that way or drawing hair that way. So I think it's nice to do observational drawing, or that's why I always keep sketchbooks, because every so often you'll draw a foot differently and you go, oh, that's, you know, into the library of feet I can draw now or something, and that's how I think a lot of people's work develops. Experiences to take home. I was talking about this with one of the other artists here, and we were talking about how much time you spend on your own here, and I think we're a little bit different, the artists that are here at the moment, in the sense that we communicate, I think, a bit more than past artists that have done residencies here. We were saying that you spend a lot of time on your own and you're thinking more. Obviously, we all think a lot. A lot of artists think a lot, people think a lot in general, but when you're on your own for long periods of time, I definitely have been thinking more about what you're classified as, whether I'm an artist or an illustrator or a designer or a sculptor or a painter, because I'm doing all these things now. But a year ago, I would have definitely said, yeah, I'm an illustrator, because I do commissions for editorials and I respond to content, to a piece of text, and that to me is an illustrator. But then I do a drawing or make a sculpture in my studio or something, and then I'm an artist. Sometimes I think if I'm doing a job that I'm not so into, I'll think in my head, oh, I can't wait to finish this job so I can do some art, which is quite an interesting thought. And then when I finished it, I thought, oh great, I can do some art now. And I thought, well, and then I started painting. I thought, well, what was I doing then? Why is that any different from what I'm doing now? And I think when you start to classify yourself as certain things, I don't know, it just becomes a bit confusing for me. And now I'm starting to think, I was having a conversation with my friend, I think people like me and a lot of my friends back home who I studied with or they're just creative people. They're not just making sculptures or paintings or drawings or collages or doing editorial illustrations or advertising illustrations. They're just making work, and that's one of the things that I'll take home with me, I think, is just thinking a bit more about what I am and what I want to do and what work I want to make, and the importance of being on your own for not necessarily a really long period of time, but for a little bit, for sure. But on the other hand, it's really great to talk about the things that you've been thinking about when you've been on your own. So it's nice to be able to speak to friends back home on Skype or on the phone or whatever. So yeah, that's it.
Keep 2 eyes on me, 2 more eyes on you. I went to a fortune teller to the 7th sister tomb. They say, go away, little boy, it ain't nothing we can do. You got a 2-headed woman who knows everything you